if you have your eye on a Toyota RAV4, you are far from alone. Even when this car rolled out of a Toyota factory in 2020, global sales of Toyota RAV4s had topped 10 million, and since then there have been a further 1 million delivered worldwide. So it's fair to say it's a popular car. It's also changed quite dramatically from the small, funky runabout that was first introduced back in 1994. But the changes haven't always been great. The RAV4 went from fun to frumpy rather quickly, and even though it got clean green hybrid power along the way, it's fair to say it had lost its mojo a little. That mojo returned quite emphatically when the 5th generation, that's this one, was launched in 2018. This is a 2020 car, and it started off as a petrol hybrid, and then in 2020 a full plug-in hybrid was released, and no diesels at all, which is interesting because diesel is not exactly flavour of the month, so Toyota got it right. Anyway, we think it looks much less awkward than RAV4s of old, but also pleasingly still like a proper SUV, rather than a jacked-up hatchback, which is what many crossover family SUVs end up looking like. Talking the RAV4's rivals, they include Peugeot 3008, Honda CR-V, Ford Kuga and Nissan X-Trail, among others. And if you head to the Motorpoint YouTube channel, you'll be able to watch reviews of some of those. And while you're there, like, subscribe, bell icon, comment, etc. Inside, the RAV4 feels reasonably plush without ever seeming actually posh. The stitched trim on the dash looks and feels fairly high-end, for example, as does the leather that covers the gear selector lever and steering wheel trim. These seats are also upholstered in high-quality leather, which is very lovely. Not all of the cabin is lovely, though. We have to criticise this plastic trim here. It doesn't feel premium, and the shortcut buttons look like they've come from a 1980s handheld computer game. The graphics for the central infotainment screen and the driver's display aren't the most elegant either, with rather clunky graphics. At least the stereo controls and climate controls are on physical dials rather than buried in the screen. We also can't fault the equipment levels Toyota offers. Every RAV4 of this generation gets adaptive cruise control, dual zone climate control and automatic headlights. Stepping up the model rankings brings you extras such as keyless entry, front parking sensors and built-in sat-nav. This Excel model is near the top of the range and gets even more gear, including electrically adjustable and heated front seats, plus a heated steering wheel. Hopping into the back seats, and because this is physically quite a large car, there's plenty of room back here. I'm 5'4.5", but if you're taller than me, you will still find there is plenty of space. In fact, I feel like just relaxing now, but I will continue. There are cars that do have more space though. A Hyundai Santa Fe and a Honda CR-V have more room and 2 extra seats, as do some of the other rivals, but you definitely don't feel like you're shortchanged here in the Toyota RAV4. The boot space is equally generous, with 580 litres, rising to 1,690 if you fold the rear seats down. It's worth mentioning, though, that you lose around 90 litres of boot space if you go for the plug-in hybrid RAV4. And actually, the size of the boot is a bit of an issue because I almost have to get in to reach this lever to drop the rear seats down. And even people taller than me experience the same thing, which is why a lot of rivals have a handle here or here. And it's a bit frustrating not to have one. Talking of frustrating, while it's great to have an automatic tailgate, why does it have to be so slow? And it's finally closed. Let's hope it's not so much of a slow coach out on the road. With 225 horsepower available from its 2.5-litre engine and electric assistance, the RAV4 can shift along pretty well for a big car, but it does have one really weird quirk. Instead of a regular automatic gearbox, it has something called a continuously variable transmission, or CVT, which basically keeps the engine at the maximum revs for optimum efficiency. It's a clever idea in theory, but it can make your car sound a bit like a speedboat. As a result, this is a car that very much encourages you to drive it gently, making the most out of that electric part of the powertrain. And in doing so, you can get almost 60 miles per gallon, which for a car this size is very impressive. Your passengers will thank you for a spot of gentle driving too, as the car does roll a bit in the corners. And if you happen to switch into sport mode, the steering becomes much more hyperactive and you can end up throwing the car around a little more than you had intended. The brakes too can catch you out because the hybrid system interferes with the brakes to harvest energy, which is good for efficiency, but just be aware. And when it comes to road noise, well, it's a little intrusive from the engine, the tyres, and a bit of wind around the door mirrors. The RAV4 isn't the most polished performer, neither is it the biggest SUV, nor is it the poshest. But it offers loads of standard equipment, feels robustly built, and delivers fantastic fuel efficiency. If you're looking for a sensible family SUV, what more could you want?